Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 213, A New School Year and New Beginnings.
We told you that new episodes were coming, and they are here. In today's episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we sit down to talk about the new school year, our family, and how we navigate alternative views and values in a mainstream society. And we also talk about new beginnings.
We sent our kids off to sleepaway camp this summer, and we had a plan in place for keeping our kids vegan and as healthy as possible. So we're going to tell you how the camp did with our kids, and we're also going to talk about ways to start conversations with schools about your family's values to get the most support possible.
A new school year means a chance for you to have even more organization, to create different routines in your household as well. This show will get you thinking and help you make some decisions on how you can improve your family's quality of life for the upcoming school year.
Enjoy the show.
Breaking news, Plantiful people. I'm running a new program. It's a group coaching program that I put together based on the problems I see so many parents struggling with. It's called Putting an End to Picky Eaters. It helps parents navigate the unruly waters of picky eaters. Parents are pulling out their hair trying to get their kids to eat new foods, and they're worried about their kids' health, their kids' marks in school, and their future. And if they continue to eat junk food and continue to eat that the way that they are, parents are really worried that things are not going to turn out well for their children. By the end of this program, parents will have an arsenal of new recipes, know how to teach kids to choose healthy snacks, know how to get your children to taste new foods, which eventually leads to liking new foods. They'll find out how to disguise healthy foods, how to help kids enjoy healthy foods, and understand why kids want to eat junk and carbs all day long. The course starts September 7th, and it will include weekly calls with education, a chance to ask questions, tips, tricks, charts, and homework that will help change the dynamics around food in your home. For more information, you need to email us at info@planttrainers.com or hit the link in the show notes, and be sure to tell us that you want to put an end to picky eaters.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
As most of you know, Adam spent 5 weeks eating his way through Europe this summer, and I was home with the kids. And I'm grateful that Adam was away. I'm grateful that he had time to explore, but it also, every year when he goes away, it also makes me love him more. It makes me realize how valuable he is to the family, and it makes me see the relationship that he has with the children and how excited they are to speak to him. So although he's gone and that's a bit of a void, I'm always grateful for that void because it makes me appreciate so much and makes me appreciate you more.
Well, thank you, and I'm happy to be back. I'm grateful today for so many things, but one of them is the fact that while we were away, we put out these podcasts and they were repeat shows, and we've had so many people that haven't heard those episodes coming in, downloading, listening, sharing, liking, and it's really been awesome to see that. So we have a whole bunch of new shows coming up, and we hope that you're going to continue to love them and like them and share them. And we're just so grateful that we're building this community together.
Thanks for being here, everyone. And now for our quote of the day.
Raising children is a creative endeavor, an art rather than a science. Bruno Bottelheim.
For those of you who are new listeners to the Plant Trainers Podcast, we haven't had an episode, just Adam and I, in a long time. And what we do is when it's just us, we always have a quote of the day, and then we comment on it. So here's my comment. I love this quote, especially because we're talking about children today and how to navigate certain problems or try to keep certain problems from coming up. And the truth is, we can talk about these things, but everybody's situation is a little bit different. And what we hope to do today is inspire you to have conversations, to think about how to navigate them, and to make decisions in your life. But just because we said it, it doesn't mean that that's the way that you need to do it. What you need to do is you need to think about all the different aspects that we talk about today and figure out how it works well for your situation.
There is no set in stone way to raising children. It's all a process, and it's something that we all go through in different ways, and we learn as we go. And parenting is never easy, and it's always something that we're learning on the job, and it's a pretty cool thing and kind of unique in that way. So just because we do it one way doesn't mean it's the only way or the right way. We're learning just as much as everybody else.
So today is a show about families. Today is a show where we're going to be talking to you about some of the activities that our children take part in, some of the activities that we take part in as a family, and how we navigate life as these alternative type people in a very mainstream society. I think that we're a visual minority when it comes to being alternative. I think when we walk down the street, they're like, okay, there's normal people. And then we go and we open our lunch boxes and they're like, okay, not so normal. As more normal as our life is becoming for more and more people, we still tend to stick out a little bit. Would you say that?
To some people, I mean, it's a matter of perspective. It's because people in society judge everybody on the food that they eat. And I think that's a major problem that we have in society right now. Never mind the fact that people shouldn't be judging other people for every reason, but why are we judging based on what we consume as people?
Right. And I think a lot of the things that when people eat differently or think differently or want to take care of animals as opposed to eat them, there's a lot of things that are the same. For example, our daughter Jordan just came back from sleepaway camp and she's learning how to ride her bike. And that's something that everybody does. It doesn't matter what kind of food you eat. So, we're working with her to ride her bike. They're signed up for gymnastics this year. And I think that's awesome that our 9-year-old son, loves doing gymnastics. It's something that he asked for this year because we do let our children decide within limits what activities they're going to be taking part in. However, swimming is a must-do because that's a matter of life and death. We believe that every child, especially our own, need to learn how to swim. If they ever fall off a boat, they need to know how to keep their head above water. And if they don't want to continue on past, a certain level, that's okay with us. But basically, we do a lot of activities at home. We try to do lots of hiking in the summer, especially when we're down in the Adirondacks. Our kids set up American Ninja Warrior activities in the house and the basement and when they go to other people's homes. So we're always very active, but we don't necessarily put an emphasis on having to pay for every activity and every activity being scheduled, but there are certain ones that we like our children to take part in.
I think we need to step back a minute because we sent our kids to summer camp, to sleepaway camp for the first time ever. And it was a bit of a challenge, I think, before the summer started in figuring out how we were going to keep our kids from sticking out or being the odd person there because of the type of food that they're eating. And our kids are completely vegan, completely plant, so that's all they consume. And the camp is not used to that. So why don't we talk a little bit about how we navigated that system and got the camp to work with us?
So when we did decide that we were going to be sending our kids to overnight camp, it was important to us that the camp work with us and that the camp understand that we didn't want our kids to stick out even more than they had to. We didn't want them to feel as if they had nothing to eat, and we wanted it to work as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, and we were lucky that the camp was willing to work with us, or actually they were lucky because if they wouldn't have, we wouldn't have sent our kids there. But their kitchen was very well equipped and they were very open-minded and they wanted to, I think they realized that the world is changing and people have more dietary restrictions and needs and wants, and they want to accommodate everybody so everybody could find a place and be comfortable going to this camp. So I think that it was a good fit. I think they handled it quite well. And they had a special window for special dietary restrictions that the kids with those special needs would go to for their meals. And they ate very well.
So our first step was to have a conversation in person with the camp director. And he made sure that he understood what our children needed. And he was very clear on whether or not he could provide for us in that way. And I think that if you're looking for overnight for your kids, that you need to interview the camp. Don't just choose a camp and try to make it fit. Really see that there's a care for the kinds of foods and the kind of lifestyle that you choose, and make sure that they're willing to not necessarily bend over backwards, but definitely make sure that they get the job done and get the job done properly. We were also very lucky that they were just in a transition between two different caterers, and the chef that was actually going to be coming to that camp was very, very heavily plant-based, mostly vegan, but vegetarian. So there was an understanding of which foods were acceptable, which foods weren't, and they were willing, if we were the only vegan family in the camp, they were willing to make a meal, not just put things together, but actually make a meal for our two children.
I think we should say, though, that the way that we eat at home was quite different from the way they ate at camp. I mean, obviously, the types of food that they got in camp were not necessarily the same as we eat here. We don't usually use frozen foods or processed foods when we make our meals. And we know that at camp, some of the meals included some processed foods. We know that they had snack time where they would get tuck, which is like snack time once a week, and they would get options that were heavily processed foods and junk food, so to speak, to a lot of people. And I think that's something that we should mention, that we were okay with that. You know, they're kids. Let them be kids to a certain extent.
Yes, so I think that we do the best that we can do inside our own home 350 days of the year, so that we don't have to feel bad or regret about those other options that we're making. I know the camp does do a lot of homemade food. So there were things like curried served, there were pancakes that are not from mixes, all different kinds of hummus and spreads and things like that, things that are homemade. But when it comes to hamburger night, for the vegetarian kids, it's going to be processed hamburger, where at home a veggie burger,
or a hot dog, or
right, where at home we do carrot dogs, at home we do our sweet potato burgers, that we could link to both of those in the show notes as well. So we definitely, the processed type foods, we make our own at home, but for them to have it, once a day, that's okay. There are desserts and stuff that they have a lot more often at camp than they do at home. And they need to go to camp. They need to socialize. They need to make decisions on their own. They need to leave the nest and grow up a little bit, grow tall a little bit. It's amazing how they sprout up. But we were okay with that. Even us as plant trainers who are, almost 100% oil-free within the home, and, we eat out in restaurants from time to time, but not that often. And sending them to camp and knowing that they were going to have, the occasional processed hamburger, hot dog, bag of chips, that was okay with us, because when we weigh that out compared to the rest of the year, and when we weigh that out compared to all the other experiences and lessons they're going to learn, that fits our overall umbrella values.
I think it takes a little bit of pressure off them, knowing that they could be at a barbecue with everybody and they're getting a vegan hot dog at the barbecue where everyone else is eating regular hot dogs. And I think it's cool that they don't have to be singled out because they're eating something different when it looks exactly the same, but it's made from non-animal ingredients. And I think that was really amazing. And I think that it was also pretty cool that they got to try new foods that we don't eat at home and that we don't make for them. And it just expanded their palate and it gave them more options. And they're starting to realize, I think, that there are other foods out there that they can try. And some they'll like and some they won't. But the key thing is that they're trying new foods. And that was really cool.
The camp also let us know that they're marshmallow roast outs, or that they might be making s'mores. So we had the opportunity to send up some of our own packaged non-perishable foods as well. So, total junk food. And I guess we could have sent cereals and stuff like that too, but we said, you know what, let them just choose what was there. So I did send up, the vegan marshmallows and some graham crackers. As long as the products were not free, I was able to send them up. So we sent up some Amrita bars, some Made Good bars, some other little non-perishable foods that they'll get as a treat from time to time. Not that the Amrita bars are a treat. They mostly have that before and after their activities. But we wanted to make sure that, because the camp was being so great to us and making sure that they had food for the kids all the time, that they didn't have to worry about all their baked goods being vegan all the time, although it would be good for the rest of the camp. as well. In terms of the B12 and the D3, we didn't send it up with the kids for the summer. They normally get it at home. The D3 we really weren't worried about because they're in the sun so much and they're in bathing suits, and we're not worried about that. And the B12 I really wasn't worried about either. We gave them a bit extra before they left, a little bit more when they got home, and it stays in the system quite a long time. So there was no need to have to worry and send them to the infirmary to take their B12 every day.
I think another thing that was new for us as parents is that our kids are away from us and they're in camp for a few weeks. They're on their own and we're not there to see and watch everything that they're doing. And you as a mom worry about your kids, and I worry about them too, but I don't think to the same extent that you do. And I think a lot of parents sending their kids off to a sleepaway camp for the first time, there's a sense of worry there and about not being there just in case something happens, or you want to see what they're doing and how they're developing and if everything's okay, and are they socially okay, are they eating well, are they sleeping well. Sometimes you got to just back off, and you don't want to be that helicopter parent, and it's not an easy thing to necessarily do for a first-time parent.
It's definitely not, but I think hearing that your child settled in and that they are making friends, that they are participating in activities really helps, and that helped me relax. I don't think I was too bad at the beginning, and then Jordan was really young, so her days were a little bit different than Russell's days, and you just want them to be happy. But you worry because you're used to seeing them so much. I think that there's a healthy worry and then there's an unhealthy worry too. And if you compare me to some of those other moms out there that you're not seeing, I think I did pretty well.
You did very well. So I want to shift a little bit here. And before I do, I want to say that if you're listening and you want to know more about the transition into a summer camp, or you have questions about how we did certain things, send us an email to info@planttrainers.com and we'll get back to you on that topic. But I want to shift now into the new school year, because that's where we're headed. That's where some of your kids already started. Ours are starting very soon. And I want to talk a little bit about all this new stuff that's coming, the new teacher, the new class, the new classmates. How do we navigate that, prepare ourselves for that as parents, but also as students?
I think it's really important to have a conversation with your children around what their values are, what your values are as a family, what you expect them to do in the home, and what choices you expect them to make outside the home. A lot of parents, depending on the age of the child, once you get into those preteens or teens, it's a certain way in the home, and then they allow them to make their own choices outside the home. And I think children understanding that that's their choice and that's available to them really helps the parent relationship. But when you have younger kids and you want all their choices to be vegan, plant-based, sugar-free, oil-free, whatever it is that you're going with in your home, then you need to talk to your child about that too. And they need to understand that when they're offered food from a friend, from a teacher, at a program, that there are certain questions that they need to ask. And just asking, is it vegan, is not necessarily going to get you the right answer, because not everybody understands what that means. So, is there egg in it? Is there dairy in it? Are there animal products in it? Right? Those kinds of questions. And I think as early as 3 years old, you could start getting them to ask those kinds of questions.
And I think it's important for our kids to understand why they do it. So why are they eating this way? Is it always just a health thing? Not necessarily. It could be a very ethical reason. We don't eat animals, period. And I think for them to understand the reason behind why they're eating a certain way will really make it easier for them to make the proper choices that they'll want to make when the time comes that they have to make them. So I think it's important that we share this information with the teacher. It's a new teacher in possibly a new school, who knows? But I think it's really important for us to communicate with the person or people that are going to be spending the most time with our kids over the course of the school year.
So a lot of teachers will send home on the first day a questionnaire where you fill out about what your child likes, what your child doesn't like, if there's any behavioral issues, if there's any medications, and all those kinds of things. And there's always room to talk about diet, because there'll always be an allergy section. And if there's not an extra comment section, you could always use the allergy section to talk about diet. And I think it's important because some kids go to school and choose foods to eat at school from the cafeteria. Some teachers do a lot of cooking activities. There's always different things that are coming up, and whether or not kids are allowed to share at your school, share their own lunches. So it's important for the teacher to know. If you don't have one of those forms to fill out, you could either write a letter to the teacher and or request a meeting with the teacher. And one thing that I've found as a teacher for over 15 years, and also as a parent of, let's call us alternative, a healthier family, is that if you make the health benefits the focus of the conversation, the other adult doesn't get their back up. So we're not saying, we're vegan or, we're plant-based because we're better than everybody else, and that's what we choose.
It's that judgment thing again.
Yeah, we don't want to get other people judgy. We don't want to get other people's backs up. We want to maintain a really good relationship with them. So if you have any health benefits from your new diet, from your new lifestyle, or one that you've had all along, and you find that that is something that you could communicate, then I would definitely use that as the bridge. So for example, saying, "Hi, Mrs. So-and-so, it's so lovely that you're little Janie's teacher this year. I really wanted you to know that we choose to eat a plant-based diet because Jeannie's eczema was so bad and we didn't know what to do. She wasn't sleeping all night. And at the end of the day, when we took out certain products from her diet, we found that her eczema was so much better. She was able to learn better. She was able to behave better. She was able to sleep better. And she eats a plant-based diet. That includes these foods. It excludes those foods. And we really hope that we can work together to be able to make sure that we maintain this diet throughout the year. You could let me know if any activities are coming up that include food, and I'd be happy to send something acceptable for my daughter so that she feels part of the group and you don't have to go the extra mile to make sure that you're providing for her. If we work together, then it won't be any extra work for you, and I would really appreciate that. And whether that's in letter form or whether that's in a conversation form, what we're doing as parents is being very respectful to the teacher and not putting extra work on them. But also we're not making it about ethics, and we're not making it about how we're higher and mightier, even if we don't mean to do that. And it could be a much more acceptable...
I don't think it's a problem to make it about ethics. I don't think it's a problem to make it about values. Why can't you tell the teacher that we as a family believe in kindness, and we as a family believe in not eating animals? That's just an ethical choice that we've made, and we expect that our children do the same, and you respect our choices at school. And I don't see the problem with that.
So I don't see a problem with it either. And I think that if that's part of your family dynamic, I think it's definitely worth mentioning. But I also think that if there are health benefits that have come from it, I think leading with the health benefits helps to ease into the conversation. And as a teacher, I know that when you have a class of 30 kids and everybody's got a different problem, you go, oh, there's the one who's not willing to eat chicken.
Yeah, but if you turn it away from the health benefit and you make it more about the behavioral benefit, I think the teacher will be more likely to pay attention. So if you say, because we eat this way, my child, and we've seen this over the years, that they have less aggression, they're less disruptive, they're less of a behavioral concern. And by you as a teacher not enforcing, but maybe ensuring that they continue to eat the way we do at home, you will in turn see less of a disciplinary problem or behavioral issue in your classroom. I think that makes a big difference.
Oh, of course. And I include that as a health benefit in my own mind. I include that as a health benefit as well, because it is their social health, it is their mental health, it's all that. And yes, if you make it that it will be easier on the teacher, then the teacher will also be grateful for that as well.
The biggest mistake that I think parents make is that they withhold information from the teachers, and teachers are spending so much time with our kids. They really need to know everything. So if there's something going on with your child if there's some kind of behavioral issue that you're going to hide from them or medical issue that you're going to hide from them, it's really just going to end up hurting you as a family in the end. So it's really important to be open with your teachers so that you could inform them so they could help you in the best way possible. And I'm saying this as a teacher because I always like to know as much as possible about my students so I could always have their best interest at hand.
And hopefully your teachers feel the same way as well, because they're busy all day and they've got rules and they've got routines and they've got things going on. But at the same time, we have routines at home. And talking about routines, the beginning of a new school year happens to be a really, really great time to change up some of the routines that are happening in your home, or change some of the values, or change what's going on. People tend to look at January as a good time to change things. But I think for kids, I mean, we could change things at any time. I'm not saying wait till January, wait till next September.
Yeah, but traditionally there are specific times of the year where people say, oh, let's make a New Year's resolution and let's make a change. And now it's January, New Year's, perfect timing. Well, here's another opportunity. The summer's coming to an end. We're getting back to school and let's get that going. We're back to school. Time to start off with some new, fresh routines in the home for our children, even for ourselves. So what are some of these things that we can do to change those routines up?
Well, I think it's a really great time to start to look at what your children are eating and what's missing from their diet. Is it more fruits? Is it more vegetables? Do you need to make more smoothies? And start to make routines around that. So if your child's not eating enough fruit, start to say, okay, today's the first day of school, or the second day of school, or the second week of school, wherever you are, and we're going to choose a fruit to go with breakfast every single morning. Because sometimes they get to school and we don't actually know what they're eating, what they're choosing, or what they're actually eating in their lunchbox or throwing away. So if we make sure that they're getting that fruit in with breakfast every morning, then this is a good time to start that. Or if they're still having regular cow's milk and you want to start more plant-based milks, this is a great time saying, first day of school, plant-based milk. Do you want soy milk or do you want almond milk? Which one is it going to be? Let's taste them on 2 different days and see which one you like better. Or after school, instead of coming home and raiding the cupboards for the chips and the chocolate and all those other things, making it a priority to have a fruit or a vegetable before you go and you have your granola bar, before you go and have your pretzels. These are good times to try to make sure that we're getting more of those delicious foods into our children.
I think you bring up a good point, and that is that at home, we can somewhat control what our kids are eating. When we're at school, when they're at school, we have no idea if they're actually going to eat what we gave them, if they're going to trade it away with a friend, if they're going to just throw it in the garbage. So when we have those opportunities at home, which is generally going to be breakfast, after school, and dinner, that's when we want to get the most nutritious foods into our kids. During the day, the truth is, if they eat their lunch and we've given them healthy options for lunch and they ate it, fantastic, that's a bonus. But I think the food we send with them to school should be seen as bonus food. And ideally, they're eating healthy food during the day. But if we can control what they eat for breakfast, if we can control what they eat for dinner, and I don't know if control is the right word, but then we know for sure that we're getting good food into our kids.
Yeah, I think the word control has some negative connotation with it, but when we offer the good foods, right? When we offer the nutritious foods, and I always take breakfast and after school snack and dinner very seriously in the home and make sure that we're eating what we need to get in, throughout the day. And if you're going to do, some of those processed hamburgers or processed hot dogs or chicken fingers or whatever it is, maybe lunchtime is a better time to do that than dinner time, because that's going to ensure that your child's eating during the day, maybe if they're used to throwing out their food. And that way at dinner, you could have more wholesome food, more plant-based food that looks like the original form that it came in. And you could actually see how much they're eating of it and encourage them in different ways to eat more of it, which is some of the tips and tricks that I'll be going through in that Picky Eater program that I'm offering in September.
Here's a great opportunity for you to really get your children, get your kids to understand what to expect, to make your life a little bit easier, and actually get them to be involved in the food process at home. And if you can talk to them, sit down with them before the school year starts, or even if it's already started, just find some time, sit down and talk about food, figure out what they're interested in eating, find out what they'd like to eat at school during the day, or even have them start preparing their own lunches depending on the age that these kids are. Have them help you with breakfast, have you help you with dinner. There's so many ways to get them involved. And I think by the kids being involved in the food process, they're going to be much more likely to enjoy and eat them.
100%. And if we talk to them and let them know what our expectations are, they'll fall into place too. So if you tell your children, we have a fruit before we eat anything else after we come home from school, it's fruit and then a snack, they might growl or roll their eyes the first few days, but then they'll come straight into the kitchen, pick up an apple, eat their apple and say, okay, what else can I have? That's why picking up my school lunches, a guide to making it easy and healthy for parents and for children in our Plant Trainers shop at planttrainers.com for under $5, you can sit down with your child for a half an hour, map out all the foods that you want them to eat, all the foods that they're willing to eat, add to the list, have a list in front of you every day when you're making their lunches, when they come home from school, different choices that they can start to incorporate into their day. And it's all mapped out for you. There's no pulling your hair out on a daily basis. They've worked together with you to create the kinds of meals that they're willing to eat for lunch. And therefore, there's no excuse for them not to eat it. And once they get to a certain age, which for many kids could be 3, 4, 5 years old, getting them involved in the process of making it too is even more empowering for them to make healthy decisions and eat their healthy foods that are being offered to them.
And while we're at home, we do offer them some great snacks. And I love the way you make your smoothie every day after school for them. And they ask for it by name sometimes, whether it's the green monster smoothie or the chocolate one that they like. And there's so many other snack ideas that we have. And we actually did a podcast way back about snack ideas and a back to school episode, and I'll link to those. I'll look them up and put them in the show notes. But what are some other snack ideas that we like to offer our kids that we know give them good nutrient density?
So I love bananas because I find them filling. I find that they're easy, they're light, they're especially for running out the door to go somewhere. They're
Mother
easy to take with.
Mother Nature's fast food, right?
Mother Nature's fast food. And Russell likes to upgrade his banana into a banana split. And you're thinking, what? Your kids get ice cream? Of course they get ice cream, but not every day. Well, not real ice cream. But he likes to split down the middle with some peanut butter or wow butter or something like that, and chia seeds and coconut. And that's a really great snack too, especially if dinner's not coming around the corner too soon. For sure, I love smoothies. I love throwing chickpeas or other beans into those smoothies as well to make sure that they're getting some of that in during the day, some greens in there as well. And then I let the fruit take over as the main flavor in there. Kale chips, and you don't even need to oil them. You just need to wash them, dry them, stick them in the oven. Kale chips are really great too. And of course, for some easy on the go, there are pretzels out there. There are some different kinds of alternative crunchy processed snacks that are not as detrimental to our children's health as things that are filled with dyes, things that are filled with sugar, things that are crazy filled with oil. There's a lot of healthier options out there, but that's not something that we do every day, all day. It comes up in certain situations. I love applesauce as well. Applesauce is really great.
It could be something simple like carrot sticks. Like, we don't have to go crazy. It's just apples, bananas, carrot sticks, cucumber sticks, celery, and they eat all this stuff. And sometimes they'll dip it in hummus. It's not rocket science here. We're not pulling out all the processed foods. They'll go for Amrita bars sometimes. Like it's simple stuff.
And sometimes all they need is a visual cue. So if you come through the door and you have the watermelon sitting on the counter that you put there in the morning because you want to cut it when you get home, and you cut into that watermelon and just to yourself you say, wow, look at how red this watermelon is. It's going to be so sweet. Before you know it, you're going to have a whole bunch of ankle biters around you, and they're going to say, give me some too. So a lot of it is a little bit of psychology that's happening there also.
Presentation, right? That's half the battle.
The other thing that's really important for getting kids to eat well and for starting new and for having routines at this time of year is to plan and make sure that you're planning dinner, because I hear from so many parents that they are not planning their dinners. 3-4 o'clock is coming around. They don't know what they're making. They don't have all the ingredients. Their kids end up snacking on a million different things because food's not ready for dinner. And then by the time dinner comes, nobody's eating. So I really do find that thinking in advance, taking that 20-30 minutes on the weekend or whatever day of the week works for you and plan out your next 5 to 7 days really helps in your own routine, in your children's routine, and the kinds of foods that they're eating as well. So maybe this is a good time of year for you to get into the routine of planning your dinners out.
I think being able to organize yourself as far as meal planning goes is going to go a long way, because it's not just going to make your meal time easier, less stressful, more time with your family, but it's going to allow you to do other things throughout the week. So if you do take those few minutes on the weekend, maybe not 30 minutes, you might not need that much time, but even if it's just a few, to really put down a plan for your week, you're going to find that the time is going to open up for you and life is just going to be that much easier. So what's a good tool that they could use in helping them get organized for their meals?
Well, my number one tool is the Meal Planning Mastery. If you like hearing my voice and you like seeing my face, then you can get yourself that in our Plant Trainer shop as well, because that basically leads you through how to plan the week, how to look at what meals need to be done on what days, how not to overwhelm yourself, how to make sure that you have all the ingredients, how to shop quicker in the grocery store, and everybody can expect dinner at a specific time and what it's going to be, and it really takes all of the guessing out of your week. If that's not something that you're looking to do, then there's some great skills that you could start to apply, like map out a time, just like you would if you had an appointment with somebody. Map out a time where you're actually going to sit down and you're going to plan. Keep track of the meals that have worked well for you in the past and keep a running record of that. And really make sure that when you look at the recipe list that you're writing all of the ingredients down. Then go check your fridge and see what you have already and cross things off. That's really going to help you to not forget to buy the main ingredients for recipes and then end up not being able to make it.
You really put together a great meal planning program. The feedback that we've gotten from it has been so positive. It's really helped so many people. And if you're listening now and you're looking for ways to get organized, maybe getting you some more time during the week to do other things, the Meal Planning Mastery program, I think, might be a perfect fit for you. I'll link to that in the show notes.
And if they have any questions about it, of course, they could email me at info@planttrainers.com.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of things here today. I think we talked a little bit about the summer camp and the new schools and a lot of new routines. And getting into a new routine or creating a new habit is not something that's easy to do for most people. Not everybody is black and white, can just flick a switch and, oh, that routine is here.
Like you?
It's not easy for me in certain cases as well. So we've learned that it takes quite a bit of time for people to actually lock in, hone in, and get focused and set on new habits. So it's a process. It's hard to become perfect at everything or anything, and everything we do in life, it takes time to get good at. You need to remember that those people that are experts in what they're doing were beginners once too, and everybody starts somewhere. So we might all be at different places. We might all be at different times in our lives where we need different types of help. And don't be afraid to reach out. But now is a great time to get into that new routine. Start it for your kids, start it for yourselves as parents, start it for yourselves as people, as athletes, as humans. Just get going. Don't wait till next week to start that routine. Put down this podcast and go get started right now. Why wait?
Having said that, however, if you heard 10 new things that you want to start doing in your own life right now, I would make a list of those 10 things. Circle what you're going to start with today. Not tomorrow, not the next day. Circle what you're going to start with today and put a time limit on when you're going to start those other things, because starting all 10 today is not necessarily going to help you to keep it going long term.
Now, that being said, we have an awesome show coming out next week where we talk to a good friend of ours, Sid Garza-Hillman, about raising healthy parents. And we're going to cover a lot more and get into more depth about a lot of the tips we gave you today. So look forward to that episode coming out next week. And thanks for tuning in today.
Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any other podcast listening platforms. We appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it ensures other people will find us too. Thanks to our patrons. To become a patron, visit www.patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference. Connect and follow us on Instagram and Twitter @Plant Trainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at www.planttrainers.com for awesome plant-based recipes and a list of our services. Email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so we can answer them on our upcoming Facebook Lives. We hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time, and have a healthy day.